Hello and welcome. This is SV Paquita and I'm Tim B. And we're getting ready for Hurricane Henri to bear down right over the top of our mooring, right where it's headed right for us. So a couple people have asked me to make a little series of short videos and post them as things go. I plan on riding out the hurricane, so it's not always a good idea. And when I say riding out, I don't mean riding it out in the ocean, but being on the boat while it's at the mooring to kind of keep an eye on things and see what we can do. So if that's something you're interested in, come on along. Should have probably a few videos as things go. If things get really crazy, I probably won't be able to shoot much, but hopefully you'll be able to see what happens. This hurricane is scheduled to be here in the next 18 to 24 hours, and it's packing a punch of over 75 miles an hour, and it'll be interesting. But I think we have a couple good plans, so here we go. So in preparing for this hurricane, or any storm for that matter, there's a couple things that I try to bring over from my professional life into the recreational side here. And one of the things that we stress in our business is that we really need to worry and be concerned about the things we have control over, and try not to be so concerned about the things that we don't have control over. And so when we think about what's going on, I think that time will tell, but I think that the odds of something bad happening, that there's really two things that could happen. One is probably the most likely, and that's that another boat could run into me. If I pan the camera around, let me see if I can do this way. Trying out my new gimbal here. As you can see, most of the boats have been pulled, but there are a few that are left here. And it would be a horrible thing if one of them broke free and ended up on top of me or somebody else. So that's one of the things that we're concerned with. Another thing that we're concerned with, when I told you there's two things that I'm really worried about, and that's that when we think about the mooring, here's my mooring ball right here, and this goes down to a 500-pound mushroom. And the good news is that mushroom anchor has been buried since God knows how long, deep in the mud, and they get 20 feet of primary chain and then secondary chain. And stop and talk about this. I don't know if a lot of you are familiar with this, but something really happens that's really odd. If you ever have a mooring that is buried deep in the mud, like the mud that we have here in southern New England, it's probably the same mud that you guys have all the way around the world, but anyway, it's an anaerobic environment. In other words, there's no oxygen in there. It's really odd that sometimes when you haul a mooring that's been in the water for 20 or 30 years, the secondary chain, in other words, there's usually a stone or a cement block or a mushroom, an anchor, something like that, that has a primary, great big heavy-duty chain, and then it goes to a swivel and a smaller chain that goes up to the buoy, up to the mooring ball. And something that's kind of really weird is that when you haul all that stuff up, the secondary chain is all rusted as you would expect, and the primary big heavy stuff that's been on there forever, that's been underground, looks just exactly like it did the day it came out of the box. When it gets in that anaerobic environment, there's no oxygen, and it can't rust, and so that's something that's really good. So anyway, to get back to what I was saying, I get so easily sidetracked. I have two concerns about the mooring. One is that something along, whether the mooring pulls out or we break free of the mooring, something would happen. If the mooring pulled out, there are some people that say, oh, you could put another anchor out or something like that, and that's something that I really highly recommend against. And there's something I don't mean to say I recommend against, it's something that I certainly won't be doing. I found that you just add complexity to the issue, and sometimes you want to get away from stuff, and just having another point that you're locked down to doesn't always make a world of sense. So if you have, in my case, a 500-pound mushroom, and if for reasons unknown to me happen where this thing actually were to drag and pull out of the mud, I would be better off motoring against the wind and slowing down the movement, stalling it out, and letting and basically being tied to the floor with a 500-pound mushroom at that point. It probably wouldn't set deep into the mud like it is now, because it's been in there for years and years and years. But that's my idea. The second thing is, if something broke between here and there, I'm probably going to be having both my chart plotter on and my anchor alarm. And because we're in such, we're only in about 5 feet of water here, so you can set a really tight anchor alarm. So if I move out of that circle, when we're talking like 3 or 4 feet out of where you're concerned about being, it'll send an alarm, and I can immediately get up and look at my surroundings. I can check things. And if you haven't done this before, what you do is if you have a radar, you previously mark on your radar fixed points, like maybe land masses, and then if you're worried about dragging and you want to verify whether you've dragged or not only can you look at it on a chart plotter, but you can also look on a radar and see if your distance to those hard points has ever moved. And in that case, this is where I do something, that my plan is to do exactly what we do in New York Harbor, where VTS will institute, when the wind starts blowing, when people have barges out at the anchorage, they'll institute a condition where they say mandatory tugs alongside and with engines online. And what that means is that in the event that you start dragging anchor, you don't have to start an engine or worry about anything. The engine's already going, and you just clutch one ahead, or maybe even a little bit more power to try to hold the bow into the wind and let the anchor reset, as opposed to hauling up the anchor and then blowing all over the place, because you already have your scope out and everything. So if you can do that, that works really well. Now in my case, I would do that if that's exactly what I want to do. If we pulled the mushroom out, I would try to continue to stay on station with the engines and the bow thruster and allow, in this case, the mushroom to reset. And you say reset, well, even so, it's a 500-pound mushroom, so even if it were just sitting on a sand bottom, it's still going to add some resistance, so that's a good thing. If we broke free and we are going somewhere, obviously we'd try to hold position with the engine and the bow thruster, but I'd also have, if I move the camera around, you'll see, let me do this, I'm still learning how to use this gimbal. Oops. You'll see, here's my anchor. I have a 55-pound rock now with an all-chain rode, and I just have this little piece of Dyneema here holding this in case something went wrong and the anchor deployed, it would catch up on that and I wouldn't lose the anchor. So before the storm goes, I'll simply slip this off so that in the event that something bad, catastrophic happened, and we lost the connection to the mooring, and I had to get underway and get to better water, and I got there, I have windlass controls at the cockpit. So I wouldn't even have to come out here on the bow, because obviously it won't be a nice sunny day like it is now. The wind will be howling and it'll be nasty, and I'll be doing everything I can to try to make sure that I stay in good water. But when I get to where I can deploy the anchor from back there and set on it from there. And so that's kind of my plan B. So that's what I'm hoping for. But I wanted to give you an idea. Another thing that I've done for a storm prep, just to let you guys know, if you have, one of the things, it's funny, I've read about this and I've heard this happen when I was chartering a boat in the BVI. I actually saw it happening to an extent, and that's that somebody didn't tie down their roller furlers, and the head sail started to deploy on itself, and when that happens, it catches the wind and the boat starts sailing. And I saw that happen in the BVI, and it kind of shook me up. And then just about a month ago, last hitch, there was another island packet here, and I was talking to the family that owned it, and they had said that they got it, and their head sail deployed on them while they weren't there, and the thing took off and did all kinds of, unfortunately it like destroyed another boat and hardly did any damage to their boat at all because it was so tough. But I didn't want that to happen. So a real simple precaution, a lot of people will do things, let me see if I can move this around again, a lot of people will do things like this where you wind up, oops, wait a minute, let me see if, there you go. You wind up the sheets on the, oops, sorry, still learning how to do this, on the roller furler. But one thing I do is I get a piece of webbing right here, and I tie right in here and right over to here, and this makes it so that even if anything happened, this would have to rip off the whole all the stainless steel here just to get that to start to unfurl. And then I do something similar to this on my stay sail over here, where I just have a little piece of Dyneema right here, where I come through here and over to the hoist boom, and that keeps that from moving. Obviously, oops, wait a minute, still having trouble figuring this out. There we go, let me spin that around. I think I'm going the wrong way, there we go. Yeah, so the idea is that none of this would be an issue. That having your lines tied off, everything should be fine. These are all just things that you do in addition to what you normally would do to make sure that with the heavy winds things will be bad. A lot of people have asked me if I'm going to take all the canvas down, and you know what, that would be a really good idea. I should probably do that. Some people have been concerned about my photovoltaic array up here, and I'm not that concerned about them, mainly because they're mostly somewhat horizontal. If they were vertical, like this one is down here, you can see this one here that's vertical and it flips up. I've already disconnected the power on this, and I'm going to be taking this down below just to remove this totally, because then it has a lot more windage when it's vertical like this, but when it's horizontal it doesn't have as much, and that's what I'm thinking, that these panels, these 3 panels up here shouldn't be that bad. I think that if I took down all my canvas, that would definitely reduce the windage of this whole area here, but the problem with that is that it would be miserable. It's going to be raining and blowing literally more than a gale, a hurricane out here, and you're not going to want to be out in that. So my feeling is that I would rather have some protection so that I can be out here monitoring the situation while the whole thing is going that way. So that's how it is. And one thing that I don't know if you guys have noticed or not, but I put, oops, let me see. See all these lights? I put all these lights, oops, wait a minute, I keep pushing the wrong button here. I put these lights all the way up around the whole boat, and they're kind of fun. And if you say, what am I doing? Well, the obvious answer would be hurricane party, but no, that's not really it. They're beautiful and they're fun and they're great, but there's also the marina that I'm at has a really, really cool webcam. And some of my friends and family have been concerned that I'm going to be on the boat all alone when this thing blows through. And at night, I told them, you know, in the day they can look at the webcam and see that I'm here and everything's fine. And at night they'll see. I say, if the lights are on at night, you know that I'm good. If the lights are off, send the cavalry. But I think we're going to be fine. Anyway, that's it for now. I'll give you another update as things go. And thank you so much. See ya.